All right, what's happening, everybody? It's the Hip Hop Hotel Broker with your weekly updates. A lot of great things have happened in the industry. Shout out to everybody right now that's at HX and BDNY. It's my first time in like 18 years missing the show. Hopefully I can link up with you all next year. But jumping into the news here, some really interesting stuff has happened. The first thing was a really good article came out talking about hotel, food and beverage, F&B. What does the future look like about that, and some of the other things, some of the trends that we're noticing in hotel, food and beverage. So one of the things was they're talking about, one, the menus are getting shorter, right? And why are the menus getting shorter? Some people are saying that it's less demand. A lot of other people are just saying that it's because of the supply chain issues, and on top of that, labor shortages. There's a lot of people that we kicked out of the labor force, right? When things got bad during COVID, we had to cut a lot of jobs. Not a lot of these people came back. They entered the gig economy, then went on and found other stuff. The other piece of that is that people found other stuff that had work-life balance. So hospitality is notoriously known for being a 24/7, kind of turn and burn industry. We may not pay the absolute highest out there compared to other industries, and you don't have work-life balance. So you really are trying to find this individual who has like just a high degree of passion and can muscle through all of those things. So when you factor in all those things, it gets to be a little bit difficult to staff. And you start talking about restaurants where it's very late nights and you make all your money on the weekends, pretty much Friday and Saturday night. So hotel, food, and beverage has had some challenges. The other thing, here's a highlight, is that technology, Uber Eats and Grubhub and all of those apps, a lot of hotel restaurants that may have not been on that were able to jump on there. So they're able to make money outside of their restaurant, outside of their operating just four walls, right? Used to be somebody had to be sitting there, but now if somebody can come and pick it up, a lot of times those to-go orders have been doing very well. The other thing, and this was happening before COVID, was room service. Room service, and a lot of hotels are a loss leader, meaning that they are losing money. They are not actually a profit center. So especially when you get into full service hotels, the way that you really make money in room service, or as we call it, in-room dining, is like if you're doing meeting suite setup. So you had a bunch of meeting planners in-house, a bunch of VIPs, and you're doing some suite setups. But other than that, you just got somebody kind of sitting around waiting to run up a box of $27 cereal. It gets a little bit rough because you got all the service fees and people just know that it's overpriced. So if you look at a lot of these full service hotels, they start to build in more and more of what you call like a market. So the rooms may have a refrigerator, microwave, or just a mini fridge, and now they put the microwaves either on the floors or like one per floor, or in the market space, and you get a little sandwich or something kind of heat and go, or something that they can heat up for you and hand over to you. So Hilton started rolling this out years ago, pre-public health crisis. If you look at the new Embassy Suites model, they kind of scaled back on even the full service restaurant, because Embassy Suites was a really interesting product, right? It's full service, all suites, but they had, the complimentary full breakfast, and they had the evening reception, all of that stuff. But they also had a full service restaurant, which was kind of wild. It's, you're giving away all this food and beverage, but you have a full service restaurant. So in the new model, they kind of carved that out and said, hey, or I should say drastically reduced it and said, hey, we got this market concept now. You can kind of go and grab your sandwiches or whatever, heat it up, and you're good to go. The next thing that to talk about is the Tao Group. So for those who are not familiar, Tao Group at one point in time had a couple of the highest grossing restaurants in the United States. I'm not sure if they still do, but just to kind of give you an idea of what they do, nightlife and restaurant, that type of stuff. So very well known in food and beverage space. So they currently operate about 40 different venues already in hotels. And I went to University of Nevada, Las Vegas, so very big on the Strip. Tao, Hakkasan, and Marquee are some of their more notable brands. They have a few others, but those are kind of some of the more notable ones. But they're actually going to be moving into the lodging space. So everybody's moving into location-based lodging, location-based experiences. So you're seeing like Universal Music Group, you've seen Nickelodeon, you've seen all of these things kind of roll out. They're not going with traditional brands. They're kind of saying, hey, let's do our own thing. We already have an existing brand, Virgin Music, right? Hard Rock. These folks are coming together and saying, hey, let's just push our own brand. Let's push our own agenda out here. And voila, the Tao Group is doing that. They're going to be doing it in Orlando. It's going to be part of a 350-acre mixed-use development. So that's going to include, obviously, some hotel and food and beverage concepts. So stay tuned for more to see how that washes out. The biggest news of the week was Marriott announced, I'm not necessarily calling another brand, I'll call it another line of revenue, which is service department. So they already had Marriott ExecuStay, which is mainly in like Asia and Europe. So in the States, they're offering like apartments serviced by Marriott. So here's why I find that so fascinating. And I knew that it was going to happen. And I thought it was going to happen more so from an M&A standpoint. And that still may happen. So in kind of the short-term rental STR market, so first and foremost, that demand is at an all-time high from like 2021 to 2022, right? At about 20% of people looking to book are looking to book an extended stay format. They're looking for extended stay product according to AirDNA. So what does that mean? As that means that people are looking for larger spaces. They're looking for something where they can stretch out a little bit more. They're looking for that full service kitchenette, all of those type of things. So it's going to be similar to the homes and villas platform that they released, except for that was more like single family homes and that type of stuff. This is interesting because this goes directly at the short-term rental market. So if you recall, watch some of my older videos on Instagram where I was just going back and telling people like, hey, be careful. You out here playing around the short-term rental market. A, the lodging industry wants all the smoke, and B, they're very much prepared for you. They're very well equipped. You know, they have the lobbying standpoint. And at the end of the day, hotels are always able to say, we are sustainable and we create jobs, right? You know, short-term rentals, there's a lot of different campaigns and ways that you could spend it, but it was very difficult to say that they created full-time jobs, sustainable full-time jobs. So here you go. You got the world's largest hotel operator. Marriott is now going to start allowing apartments on their platform. So what does that look like? It can be new construction or it can be conversion. So somebody can have maybe that 810 unit in DC apartment building, and they say, hey, you know what? You know, I like the Airbnb platform, but maybe I should just throw this on the Marriott platform. And the short-term rental market and sector is interesting because we all know about Airbnb, we all know about VRBO, but those are primarily like kind of, you know, individual owner operators, folks that have a couple. And then there was something that happened over the past like 5 to 8 years where you saw companies like Sonder, unfortunately Domio, which fell apart, and Stay Alfred and some of those other companies, Placemaker that's still around here, where what they were calling for the longest, which was apartels or institutional short-term rentals, meaning that you're not dealing with just Joe who has, you know, 7 condos and he's renting them out because he saw an IG video and he thought that was a great idea about somebody's class. You're talking about institutionally owned product that doesn't have a full-time owner other than this large institution, and they actually have this rented out specifically and only for the purpose of just renting out to another party, very much like a hotel. And most of them, I don't say most of them, but a good amount of them even had staffing, right? They had 1 or 2 people there that can kind of help you through the check-in process, depending on what hours you got there, that type of stuff. So it's a little bit more support. And then you had a lot more above property support. As somebody who's actually tried to stay in one of those things, you know, you have an issue, I had to wait for somebody to get back to me like on their lunch break. And it was, you know, very, very much a challenge. So that institutionally owned product, I felt like it was and is the future of lodging. And if you've ever been a student in any of my hospitality classes that I've taught, yeah, I'm always talking about that in terms of the sectors where it's the fastest growing, where it's going to be that rapid pace job growth, where you can kind of come in one day and then you can kind of have that story of that person who started with Marriott 30 years ago. And they're like, oh, you know, I was a GM at 29. It's one of those things like it's probably not happening today in the full service world. But this is very fascinating because you're talking about the world's largest hotel brand with all these loyalty members is now in the short-term rental market. So what does that mean? These short-term rental owners are now really about to get their head peeled back. Because you got something to say, is this a service by Marriott or this is serviced by just somebody who has a bunch of reviews? So it depends on what you're looking for. But I think that something having the Marriott backing, where people know that they can get points, where people know they can use points. Somebody like me, you know, I may have stayed at a bunch of Fairfields and Residence Inns for travel, but I'm traveling with family. Maybe I want that service department. I'll cash in my points for that. That's going to be a really interesting play for people to spend their points. So as we start to see this roll out, I'm also interested in seeing how many of the building owners were from places. If you own an apartment building and you have Sonder in there, are you now looking at it and kind of shopping Sonder against Marriott and saying, hey, you know, I might exit, you know, Sonder and go with Marriott? I don't know what it's going to look like on a revenue. Is it going to be a master lease or is it going to be a revenue share agreement for these apartment owners? that's all to be determined that I'm not aware of yet. But I think that's the biggest news. And again, it confirms everything that I've been saying for the past 2 years and 3 years actually, which is, if you're playing around that short-term rental market, the legislation was already very much a hot potato and a moving target, and we didn't really know how to size that up most places. And two, you had a very big and powerful enemy, which is the hotel industry. And if you wanted that smoke, by all means, they were giving it to you. And three, I always knew a major hotel brand was going to jump into space. And we saw that with Marriott Home Villas, and now we're seeing it with the apartment side. It's also going to be interesting to see how the franchisees take to this, right? So if you spent, your life savings building a town place suites in downtown Chicago, and then 2 blocks away, they allow, an office building to convert into apartments serviced by Marriott, or if somebody has a Sonder building and then they convert that into Marriott instead and disassociate with Sonder, does that ultimately devalue your town place suite, right? Because somebody may say, well, why would I stay at the town place suites if I could stay at a whole apartment, right? Why would I stay in a studio type situation if I can stay in something a little bit higher design, a little bit higher appointment? Because they're saying that the package, the design and decor is going to be closer to like autograph or tribute. It's going to play a lot more into like the local flavor of the market. It's not going to be as kind of leave your brain at home design as it is with TPS, with Town Place Suites. So, a lot of arguments to be had there. It's going to be interesting for the franchisees moving forward to see what that ultimately means. But it's going to be great for the Bonvoy members. It's going to be great for Marriott as they're looking to grow and increase market share. So stay tuned on the industry side. On the personal side, got tours coming up at the Hampton Inn in Carrollton. We just announced last week tours of that full service Marriott in Buffalo, 356 keys. A lot of optionality there, whether you want to do student housing, you want to do multifamily, you want to convert to another brand potentially, but big 10-acre site. So stay tuned, tap in with me again. It's the Hip Hop Hotel Broker. You know what it is, you know what the flavor is. You can reach me at Hip Hop Hotel Broker, and peace.